No mail is good mail. That's what my mother always said, and for the most part I agree, but not when it comes to art stuff. It doesn't matter how small it is, receiving a package with something art-related inside will always make my day. Hi, I'm Irene, and most of the videos here at INCWorks revolve around watercolors and gouache, but today is a pen and ink day. And that's because I've received my first order from Yoseka Stationery. Their brick-and-mortar store is located in Brooklyn, New York, but I'd heard them mentioned in glowing terms on a number of pen and ink videos. So when a relative offered to get me the KAKIMORI brass nib, I directed them to Yoseka Stationery's website, as they were one of the few places that carried it. At the time, anyway. Although I've seen a couple of pen people show and tell with this nib, it seems to be quite a niche item. Kakimori is a stationery store in Tokyo. This nib has their name stamped into the base. By the way, it also comes in a stainless steel version. Since my brother had kindly offered to get one for me, I chose the brass version. That's because I'd heard a couple of people suggest it was the preferred option for sketching. As far as I know, this design is unique. Rather than a regular half-circle shape, this is a cylinder. There are slit-like openings all around that can hold a good amount of ink, more than a traditional calligraphy-style nib. It fits standard nib holders, and fortunately I had one lying around. No, I don't want to talk about it. It's a sensitive subject. I'll tell you all about my dreams and childhood traumas, but I'm not yet ready to share my calligraphy set failure. It's too soon. By the way, I've watched a few videos on Yoseka Stationery's YouTube channel, including one that shows a complete tour of their shop, and it looks like such a cool, intimate space. Earlier, when I said brick and mortar, well, it is literally in a brick and mortar building. I mean, I'd love to be able to visit and play with the pens, inks, and papers. Perhaps engage in some pleasant chit-chat with the knowledgeable staff. Unfortunately, I don't see myself getting to the Northeast anytime soon. But it's part of my travel dreams. Oh, I've looked into it. Apparently, there are several cruise lines that have New England/Maritimes itineraries. So at bedtime, when I queue up an ocean sounds ambiance video, I can fall asleep imagining myself on a coastal voyage from Boston to Portland and on to Halifax. That's in Nova Scotia, Canada. I'm only clarifying that because we in the United States are notorious for our hazy grasp of geography. Not making judgments, just saying. I mean, sometimes I imagine everything east of New York as full of haunted lighthouses surrounded by mist. This segment, where I dedicated the entire page to the first testing of my new toy, I almost deleted it. Those who are moderately observant will probably figure out why, but in the end, I decided to keep it in because I didn't want to cheat anyone out of the demonstration, simply because I was embarrassed over a goof, a gaffe, a faux of the paw. So keep that in mind as this page progresses. The top portion shows a writing sample using walnut ink, specifically Daniel Smith's walnut ink. The middle portion is Higgins India ink. I may have been taking a chance. India ink contains shellac, which is why it's not used in fountain pens. It could potentially corrode or clog up the works, and this Kakimori nib has crevices galore. But I figured a quick test and a cleansing afterward would be fine, and sure enough, there were no problems. I was struck by the lines I got with this ink. I wasn't expecting it to be so wide. After a little online searching, though, it made sense, because I came across an article on the Art News website about the best India inks for drawing and lettering. They had this to say about Higgins India ink. Less viscous than most of our other picks, Higgins ink flows very easily while carrying a dark opaque black. It can be used in some fountain pens as well as dip pens, but is easiest to control with brushes. Because it is quite liquid, it is not ideal for creating thin lines, but you can use it to produce nice, thick outlines. The bottom of the page shows Monteverde's pumpkin cake ink. Out of the three, this one had the best results, as I was able to get crisp, thin lines when I wanted them, as well as the thick, bold strokes while angling the nib. Did you catch it? That's right. I used 3 different inks, but labeled them all as Daniel Smith's walnut ink. To clarify, the second one was Higgins India ink, and the third one was Monteverde's pumpkin cake. After that flub up, I was feeling out of sorts, so I did some more testing, this time with Diamine's Scribble Purple. See that gold rim around the bottle opening? Yes, this is a sheening ink, a quality I had only seen hints of in my previous samplings. I'd actually thought my mind was playing tricks on me at first, but no, on the right sort of paper, there is quite a delightful sheen. Here on this paper, it's rather subtle. This paper being in my Apica CD notebook. One of the fountain pen friendly papers out there is Tomoe River from Japan. A while back, I'd received a handmade notebook with this paper from Sarah Bailey of the YouTube channel Sarah Bailey Arts. I find her content really helpful, and I highly recommend her channel. So while writing or drawing with this Kakimori nib, changing your angle will vary the line width. An upright approach will give a precise, thin line. Tilting down will give broader strokes. And due to the multi-slit design, you should be able to write longer with each dip. You're getting a look at something called a ruling pen. It acts like a dip pen, but you can turn the screw to adjust the width of your line. Back in the day, ruling pens were used for technical drawings, the sort done by draftsmen, architects, and engineers. But that was replaced with CAD, computer-aided design. I'm guessing these days, tools like ruling pens are mainly for artists, hobbyists, and Luddites. Back to the subject of travel. One of the reasons a visit to Halifax is so appealing is that they have an official food. It's called the doner, which seems to be similar to a doner kebab or shawarma or a gyro. It's got meat, onions, tomatoes, and sauce wrapped in a pita. Apparently, there's a chain that's been around since the 70s called the King of Donair. And you don't even realize how weird that sounds until you've performed a Google voice search. After demonstrating the ruling pen, I pulled out my glass dip pen as well. So this page was pretty much showing several variations on the dip pen theme. I'm going to take a 2-minute break now, but don't worry, I'll be back for more inky action. 2 minutes tops.
Juste une faille dans mon cœur attend pour la peinture au mur et les bandes qu'une nue. Juste une faille dans le battant. Le stress est accru par l'envie vécu. Une feuille tombante, anxiété latente. Pas envie de recommencer ce qu'on foirait les parents. C'est bon, je l'ai vu cru, ça fait aïe, aïe. Moi, de toute façon, j'ai besoin de flow et dessus du temps. J'ai besoin d'être sûr que t'es la bonne pour me faire oublier toutes mes peurs et failles. Trop de failles, pas mon craille, non. Trop de failles, j'ai le cœur empaillé. Trop de failles, vas-y, mon craille, non. Trop de failles, mon cœur left behind, my heart advice. Ex and drifting memory that I couldn't keep on my vinyl. Afraid by baby, my soul is sad and I really don't wanna mess it up with you. You're my final. Gotta fix it out.
Since I still felt as if I hadn't shown this item properly, I did another page of scribbles, this time using Diamine's Twilight ink. And I apologize right now for the chicken scratchings to come. Look, it's got to be apparent by now that I was having a bad writing day, so don't blame KAKIMORI. But back to the donair. It reminds me of how often pronunciation can be something of a free-for-all. For example, the doner kebab. Is that really how it's pronounced? Maybe it's supposed to be doner kebab. I once pronounced Ontario as Ontario to a room of United Statesians who promptly gasped in shock and dismay. They were my fellow countrymen. I thought I was safe. And considering the rampancy of regional dialects, I mean, we have 6 different terms for soft drink, their response shocked me. But I have a question for anyone who says tomato instead of tomato. Do you also say potato instead of potato? That's a weak but adequate segue into the next topic, Thanksgiving. Yeah, it's coming up quick, and apparently producer Mike wants us to bring Brussels sprouts to his family's get-together. I'm open to having them for a weeknight dinner, but I think treating it as party food is risky. Admittedly, I'm basing my opinion on some vague, long-ago, less-than-stellar sprout experience. And frankly, as long as you add butter and bacon, it can't be awful, right? But all of that doesn't even matter, because producer Mike works hard at a full-time job, and as far as I'm concerned, he can make any darn dish he wants to. I'd heard that some people use ruling pens to apply masking fluid. I know, it sounds weird, right? But I watched a video and thought, okay, I want to try that. So the next segment shows my attempt. I've used masking fluid only a couple of times, with somewhat unsatisfactory results. And that's kept me from further experimentation. So I was skeptical, but although it started out a little rough, it actually ended up looking pretty okay. Faint praise, I know, but with more practice, I can see myself using this method on future projects. I made sure to mix the fluid well since it had become slightly clumpy in the jar, and afterward cleaning up was easy. Since the ruling pen's tines are smooth metal, I mostly just peeled the dried fluid off. But back to Thanksgiving. Again, Some years before Martha Stewart became a household name with her television series and print magazine, PBS stations had aired several hour-long programs under the title Entertaining with Martha Stewart, or something like that. It was the 1980s, and I really enjoyed them at the time. But now they are so difficult to find anywhere. I did discover a 15-minute segment on YouTube. It's linked in the description, and I have to laugh at some of it. Like when she shows off her formal dining room, complete with floral arrangements and place settings, then says, "But this is too small for our party," then takes you to a big outbuilding where her Thanksgiving event will take place. Sure, it's a bit much, but it's also fun and good for a few chuckles. For the final segment, I created a line and wash sketch using Monteverde's Documental black ink and watercolors. It's a throwback to my teen years when I fancied myself a future fashion designer. Those dreams were dashed when I failed my 8th grade home economics sewing project. It was an apron. An apron. How does one fail at making an apron? Well, it's complicated. Plus, it's too soon to talk about. Anyway, during this demonstration, I forgot to give the ink enough time to set, so the lines feathered a bit during the watercoloring process. My bad. This Monteverde Documental Black does achieve waterproofness when given some time to set. More than 2 minutes, but less than an hour. Hey, I never claimed to be scientific about my tests. I've actually got a new notebook for pen and ink work that I'm eager to try out. It's spiral-bound Rhodia dot grid 80G paper. I might use this KAKIMORI nib to demonstrate all of my inks on it, maybe as a 2-page spread. A few other small items not shown here are new to the studio. A spray bottle, a bulb syringe, a thickness gauge tool, a small set of budget brushes. Nothing too thrilling, but still very nice to have around. Things I've been watching on YouTube lately are, of course, the fresh seasonal content, decorating for the holidays, that sort of thing. I'm not that into decorating for decorating's sake myself, but I love seeing things like wreaths and tablescapes coming together. I recently watched someone crochet a campfire cardigan. I don't know what qualifies a cardigan of the campfire variety, but it looked lovely. I freely admit that I am envious of those who can create with yarn, whether it's knitting or crocheting. If I had that skill, perhaps I could fulfill that old fashion designer dream, just with yarn instead of fabric. Come on, that dress is totally doable with a bunch of granny squares. I'm happy to share this experience. Thank you, Brother John, for this gift. It's not something I'd have purchased for myself. Are you kidding? It's like $50. But I'm more than happy to have you buy it for me. Thank you to Yoseka Stationery for the thoughtful packaging. Not only did I receive the ordered item in good condition, but also a sticker and a card with a personalized note. This is a pleased pen woman here, for sure. And thank you for watching all the way to the end. Oh, I never doubted you could do it. I mean, if you made it through the whole donair thing, then all respect to you. Until next time, we should all say potato in casual conversation, just to see what sort of reactions we get. Oh, come on. It'll be a blast. And stay artsy, my friends.
Gotta be a fool to search beside you.